Russia and the European Union need to work closer together so that we can successfully face challenges related to the financial crisis, security, trade, energy, and environment. We are deeply and inevitably interdependent, and this could and should be perceived positively by our citizens to work in the spirit of positive interdependence. I am convinced that President Medvedev personally and Russia, as an indispensable partner for the European Union, share this spirit. So my main message of interdependence and cooperation today was precisely this one. Let's apply this spirit and develop all the untapped potential of our relationship. The global financial and economic crisis has hit us both, the European Union and Russia, and that is one of the reasons why we need to coordinate efforts to handle it. The London meeting of G20 clearly showed the resolve of the international community to work together closely in addressing the crisis, avoiding protectionist measures. We now need to fully implement the measures agreed in London. I will be joining President Medvedev at the G8 summit in Italy in July and the G20 summit in the United States in September to ensure that we fully deliver. In this context, I also welcome the confirmation of Russia's goal to become a WTO member soon. President Medvedev was very clear on his commitment. The Commission has been very supportive of Russia's accession to WTO, which guarantees fairness, open markets, and a better spread prosperity worldwide. On energy, I am sure that confidence and predictability can be restored. Disruptions in transit and export of gas must not be allowed to occur again. We have proposed an early warning mechanism on energy, covering oil and gas and electricity, and consisting of 3 steps: notification, consultation, and implementation. We will now work on the ways to finalize this agreement. I welcome President Medvedev's agreement to discuss updating the Energy Charter Treaty. This will provide us with opportunities to make the best use of the ideas recently put forward by President Medvedev on a new international energy rules. As was already said, we consider some of these ideas very useful, and they should be, in fact, discussed in the framework of this revision process. This brings me to our negotiations on the new comprehensive agreement, where we also aim for anchoring the principles of the Energy Charter Treaty in the energy chapter. This new agreement will reflect the full breadth of our relationship. We are making some good progress. This summit was one more occasion to elaborate on what the Eastern Partnership will bring in closer cooperation between the European Union and the 6 partner countries, as well as among them: more stability, consolidation of democracy, and more prosperity in our common neighborhood. I'm sure that these 3 objectives serve also the interests of Russia. In our discussions, I also stressed the importance we attach to progress in the implementation of the rule of law. As part of our open and comprehensive political dialogue, I do believe that a vibrant, pluralistic civil society is both the basis and the yardstick of any democracy. Regular, frank, and open political dialogue is indeed the right way to manage our relationship, and this must prevail in all times, no matter how difficult the issues at stake. We did so during the conflict in the Caucasus, again over the gas crisis, and I appreciate the willingness shown by President Medvedev to keep this frank and regular dialogue. To conclude, let me tell that the fact that this summit took place in Russia's Far East, here in Khabarovsk, highlighting the broad dimension of Russia, is a good symbol of an equally broad ambition of our bilateral relationship. And I really believe it was a summit that produces important results in a very good spirit of common understanding.
My name is Josef Pazderka. I'm from Czech TV. I have a question on...
Thank you. First of all, regarding the proposals made recently by President Medvedev, in fact, as I stated already, I welcome the fact that this proposal contains a number of international principles that the European Union already subscribes to, and which are, in fact, already covered by different international frameworks, like the Energy Charter Treaty. And I've said during the meeting, and repeated here, that we are ready to discuss these proposals with Russia inside. We are open to a discussion at international level on how to improve the existing frameworks. But frankly, we should not throw away agreements that already exist and that have been negotiated over many years, and that we are bound for by those agreements, and other partners are bound by those agreements. So our idea is we are open to discuss the proposals put forward by Russia, but rather building on the existing agreements and seeing those proposals that now are being put forward, but without destroying, without putting in question the system that already exists. Anyway, this should not distract us from an urgent task of improving our bilateral working arrangements on energy in the short term. And that's why we came with some proposals also regarding these early warning mechanisms. Regarding the other part of your question, Ukraine. For several years, we had already established a bilateral agreement with Ukraine on technical cooperation on energy. So this conference that took place on the 23rd of March in Brussels was not directly linked to the recent gas crisis between Russia and Ukraine. It was, in fact, the result of a work of several years where our Ukrainian partners were asking for some cooperation on the European Union, and not only on the European Union, also international financial institutions, to upgrade their grid and to modernize their network. So that's what happened. But in fact, we very much welcome Russia's participation in this process. And we stated, I was opening that conference, and I stated at that moment in Brussels that we very much welcome Russia's participation in that effort together. And also, as far as I understood, the Ukrainian authorities are also open to it. So, but at the same time, I mean, we have the right to have our own bilateral relations with Ukraine, as Russia has bilateral relations with many other partners. So one point I want to make absolutely clear. There were several problems, as you know, and they are public, in matters of energy, but we believe we should try to do everything we can on both sides, on Europe, European Union side, and on Russia, to make this a win-win situation. Energy, in fact, is something that can bind us, put us together. I mean, certainly the European Union needs energy from Russia. I think Russia also needs good customers like we are in the European Union. So let's try to make this something that is positive, as I've said earlier, a positive interdependence between Russia and the European Union. This is exactly in this spirit that we are considering the proposals put forward now by President Medvedev. If I may, this was indeed part of our discussions, a very important point, and as now President Klaus has said, our concept is not against, but for. For what? For prosperity and stability. We believe it is in the interest both of the European Union and Russia to have stability in those countries that are neighbors to the European Union and neighbors to Russia. Some of those countries, as you know, have been in fact asking to join the European Union. But we believe either they are prepared, and we are not prepared to offer them membership to the European Union. So it was a request of those countries to engage more with the European Union, 6 countries. And that's why we have designed this Eastern Partnership, I repeat, against nobody, but to support prosperity and to support also stability in that region. This is a substantial offer for stepping up our bilateral ties. This is an instrument to boost regional cooperation and cohesion, because sometimes there are some problems also between those countries, and we believe that by working with them in this kind of framework, we are not only reinforcing good relations with us, but among themselves, This is also a framework for a long-term relationship and engagement by the European Union based on shared values. And this is, of course, an initiative to promote political and economic stability. This partnership will also provide more assistance for political and economic reforms, and I believe that an approximation of these countries to our standards in political and economic and social spheres will bring those countries and the whole region greater stability and hopefully greater prosperity.
Let me make a...
Коллега и задавать то же самое вопрос о восточном партнерстве по отношению в Китай. Пытались бы убедить вашими европейскими коллегами, что ваше партнерство с Китаем не опасно для них, и что они ответили и думают по этому поводу.
I don't know if I understood correctly the question, but really, if there is a positive development in the relations between between Russia and China, we welcome that. It's important to understand the European Union. We are attached to basic values of peace, freedom, prosperity. So if we don't see the development of good relations between our partners among themselves as something negative to us, on the contrary, we sincerely are happy when we see some positive developments. For instance, I may say, yesterday in a very informal conversations we had in a very nice evening with President Medvedev, President Medvedev informed us about some problems that in the past there were in terms of delimitation of borders between Russia and China. Now these problems are settled. That's very good news. We in the European Union are very happy with this because all the conflicts that we can see solved, this is indeed very good news for everybody that loves peace, and this is certainly the case of the Europeans.
Но мне бы просто не хотелось, чтобы, еще раз повторю, это партнерство консолидировало отдельные государства, которые настроены антироссийски. Партнерство против России. Потому как есть всякие примеры. У нас есть
We are ready to discuss these proposals with the Russian side. We are open to a discussion at international level on how to improve the existing frameworks. But frankly, we should not throw away agreements that already exist and that have been negotiated over many years, and that we are bound for by those agreements, and other partners are bound by those agreements. So our idea is we are open to discuss the proposals put forward by Russia.
Партнерство против России. Потому как будущее как раз, как мне представляется, именно в том, чтобы подготовить всеобъемлющие правовые рамки энергетического сотрудничества. И здесь мы абсолютно едины в том, что это необходимо сделать. Я рад сейчас был услышать то, что сказал мой партнер, господин Баррозо, на эту тему. Мы дальше будем продолжать работать над созданием правовых форм сотрудничества в энергетической сфере.
President Medvedev informed us about some problems that in the past there were in terms of delimitation of borders between Russia and China. Now these problems are settled. That's very good news. We in the European Union are very happy with this because all the conflicts that we can see solved, this is indeed very good news for everybody that loves peace, and this is certainly the case of the Europeans.